Hey, everybody. It's a hot tub chat. There's cocktail chats and there's hot tub chats. Today's the hot tub chat. I don't have a cocktail with me. I just have a hot tub with me. It's Labor Day weekend in the U.S., which is a 3-day weekend for most people. We celebrate, I don't know what we celebrate. Labor? Not quite sure what the holiday is all about, but it's a 3-day weekend. And I'm up in the 3-day weekends are not really that relevant to me anyway. Every day's a weekend. I'm up in the mountains in Washington. And hi everybody. Thanks for being here. And I was just having a really cool Skype chat with a bunch of people about a question that Gary Douglas asked me many years ago that literally changed the trajectory of my life, my future, my business, everything. And we were in a certified facilitators class in Venice, Italy, and I think it was about 5 years ago. And hi everybody, hi Heather. And he asked me, I was asking him a question, and he said, "Have you acknowledged the difference that you be?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" What are you talking about, Gary? I don't know what you mean. And in that moment, hey, Carol, I was like, that would be a no. I just looked at the energy. I knew enough about the tools of access consciousness at the time. I looked at the energy and I was like, no, actually I haven't. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're asking me, but no. I know the answer is no. And it began for me this basically conversation about being different, functioning differently or different, really different. I like to say different because it's not even grammatically correct, but it's actually energetically correct. Different is different. Differently is slightly different. And so he just invited me to start looking at this and going, wow, okay. Because I never really saw myself as different. Like I knew I had, different desires about how, what I wanted to see in the world and what I wanted for my life and stuff like that. But I didn't know that I actually functioned differently. I didn't know that my brain worked in a different way than other people's brains. I didn't know that I saw the world from a very different point of view than most people saw the world. I didn't know that I had all these basically capacities that I wasn't aware of. Because for me, I went to an Ivy League university. I got a degree. I was on the dean's list. I got a master's degree after that. Like I got good grades. I did all that stuff, right? I didn't have a problem functioning in the world. I didn't have a problem with school ever. I didn't have a problem, relating to people, getting jobs, like creating businesses, that kind of stuff. I never had a problem with that stuff. So I just thought I was kind of a lot more, like everybody else than I actually thought than I actually am. Let's just say that. And I started to investigate this conversation about X-Men. This is a specialty class in access consciousness that I love. It has changed so much in my world. And I'm doing an intro class in about 10 days or so on September 11th. I wanted to invite you guys to that. But what I wanted to talk about here is that I had no idea. Now, X-Men is a body of work and access that, people that have ADD, ADHD, autism, OCD, things like that are considered X-Men. And it's literally considered an evolution of the species. People with those diagnoses are considered actually that they have a level of awareness and a brain function and a way of functioning in the world that is literally, this is an access consciousness. We would say that's an evolution of the species. It's not actually a wrongness. Like we say in this reality, people who have all those things are wrong. No, it's an evolution of the species. It's a way of functioning completely different, where you have access to whole brain function and you have access to lots of different things and lots of different awarenesses, and you get to acknowledge and recognize where all of that, like what that, like the greatness of that it's a greatness rather than a problem. Because if you don't function from a linear point of view, if you don't function from a like cause and effect reality or a linear reality in this world, that makes you wrong, and that makes you actually like you have something that you need to deal with or work with. Kids that grow up with these issues, like they're put into special education not because we want to see them acknowledge the difference that they be and become greater in the world and step into the greatness of what they are and who they are as an evolution of what is possible with how we function in the world. But we see them as needing help adjusting to this world, needing help adjusting to this reality. Hi, Adele. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. So we actually see it as a problem to be solved in a way when somebody has these quote unquote diagnoses, right? Now, so when I found out about the X-Men conversation, I didn't actually, I was like, well, that's not relevant to me because I've never been diagnosed with any of these things. I've never been diagnosed, never had a problem. I did great in school. I did really phenomenal in school. I was very successful with my education and all these other things. So it wasn't something that was on my radar at all. I created a business. I got married. I had children. I did all the things, right, that normal people are supposed to do. Well, kind of knowing that I wasn't normal, but not realizing how completely not normal I actually was until Gary invited me to look at it. And with this question of, have you acknowledged the difference that you be? And I started to, I don't even remember exactly what the conversation was with him from there, but he basically showed me and started to get curious about what it was to be an X-Men. What are X-Men? What is it to have a whole brain function? What is it to have spherical awareness? What is it to have nonlinear awareness or to have a nonlinear way of functioning in the world? And I did a session with Diva Diaz, who's one of the creators of the X-Men classes, and that whole specialty area of access consciousness. And I started exploring the conversation, and lo and behold, I was like, whoa, oh my God, I'm totally an X-Men. And I had no idea, just because I had never been diagnosed. And I became an X-Men facilitator about a year ago, to facilitate these X-Men classes, because one of the things for me was there was such a misunderstanding of what X-Men was in my world, where I was like, oh, this is for people who have diagnosis. This is for kids who have ADD, and I actually, once I started to embrace this conversation and look at it from my own point of view, and how could I create my business as an X-Men? How could I create my life as a big X-Men? How can I do bodywork sessions and symphony sessions with my X-Men capacities? How can I actually move in the world as an X-Men? That's where I get to actually be part of the evolution of the species, where I get to actually have these superpowers that we have thought were a wrongness, but they're actually superpowers. What if I started to get curious about my superpowers? What would that create? And it changed everything for me. And that was one of the reasons I became an X-Men facilitator, is because I wanted people who didn't know that they were X-Men to actually be exposed to this conversation. It's easy to go, yeah, I was diagnosed autistic, or I was diagnosed ADHD. I'm an X-Men, right? But when you don't have that indication, how do you know? And I mean, what is it anyway? This isn't about creating separation. It's about I mean, to me, this is actually a conversation that's relevant to everybody, because it is about turning everything that you thought has been wrong about you into the acknowledgement of the greatness of you, into your superpowers, and actually claiming, owning, and acknowledging the superpowers that you have for being in the world, for creating in the world, for changing things, for contributing to people, for all of that, for creating whatever it is, business or money or your body. Like, there's all these different ways that we can like use and play with this conversation. And so, and one of the things that, I was just chatting with this group of people that are part of the creation of this class that I have coming up. And everybody in the chat thread, we were just chatting on Skype, and everybody in the thread was like, I had no idea I was an X-Men. I had no idea I was an X-Men. Because if you don't have this like diagnosis or whatever, you might just be like, no, I'm kind of normal, but you're actually like a sleeping giant with like teeming with superpowers, ready to change the world, but not even knowing where to look and how to look and where to go and what to be playing with in terms of the curiosity of what your capacities actually are that are different from what you think they are, and how you function in the world that is completely different than how you think you might function. And what opened up for me from this conversation was just this awareness of like, I'm aware of 8 million things at one time. I can totally use that to my advantage. I like to jump around. I can totally use that to my advantage. And even things like, I started creating my business. Speaking of jumping around, I started creating my business with that. And then I started creating my life, and I started like looking at my body and looking at all these different things. And I actually did a class last year with 5 different calls at like X-Men. It was a creation series, and we did business, money, bodies, creating the future, and sex from an X-Men creation with all of these areas. It was fucking amazing. It's in my shop. I don't even know. I think it's probably no, I think you just have to go into my shop and dig. I don't even know if there's a short link for it, but it was a really epic series. So anyway, I just started looking at all these different areas of life and going, okay, where do I, how do I actually function? And what if I did embrace the fact that I use my whole brain at the same time? I don't have right, left brain function. I have whole brain function. What would it be like if I really let myself be as autistic as I am, and as OCD as I am, and as ADD, ADHD as I am? And what would it be like if I let myself jump around with the creating of my business and be all over the place? And what would it be like if I got out of judgment of me with all of these things? And even like as I make videos, that's one of the things that I'm always being with myself when I'm interacting with other people, whether it's I'm making a video or whatever I'm doing, like in a class, facilitating, engaging people in the world, is going, yeah, I am an X-Men. I function this way, not from definition, but from I am going to jump around, and that's part of my contribution. That's part of my greatness. I am aware of 8 million things right now. That's part of my contribution. That's part of my greatness. And what happens when we start to be in this conversation of our superpowers and our greatness is we can turn everything that we've ever thought was wrong about us into our capacities to create, our capacities to be different in the world. And that is such a gift, because you then can begin to create so much more in your life with so much ease. Because what happens is we stop fighting everything that we've thought was wrong about us. And we start going, yeah, these are my superpowers. These are my capacities. This is how I can show up in the world and create. This is how I can be something different. And we literally begin to transform everything that we thought was a limitation and a wrongness into a gift and a capacity. And then we get to expand our businesses with this awareness and this space. And then we get to create more money from it. And then we get to have a totally different experience with our bodies. And we get to have totally different relationships. Because you get this sense of where you, like how you roll, how you function in the world. And it's no longer wrong. You are part of the evolution of the species. You are part of the evolution of something different in the world that hasn't been seen yet. And when you don't have reference points for how you roll, for how you be, it's so easy to go to the wrongness of us. When we're like, well, I've never seen anybody do this in the world, Well, that's because you're here to be it. You're here to bring it. And when you don't need the reference points of other people or this reality, or like watching other people function in a particular way and translating that to yourself, but it doesn't work. When you don't need those reference points, something very, very different and very possible begins to show up. And does it get better than this? Yeah. How does it get better than this, right? And so to me, this is a really exciting conversation. It's one of my favorite classes to facilitate. I could probably say that about all of them, but there's something about the X-Men. Facilitating X-Men as an X-Men is really fun because you can go fast. You can go really, really fast, and you can jump around, and you can there's all this psychic communication that happens, and people, even if you think you're not psychic, you'll discover in an X-Men class how very psychic you actually are. And how you can use that to your advantage, and how you can, if you have children. I've really brought this into, because my kids are very, very much X-Men, so I relate to them as that. Not from definition again, but just from an acknowledgement of, this is it's really normal for my kids to be playing a video game and watching TV at the same time. The other day I was listening to a class. I had a class recording in my ears, and I was reading, and that's something that even a year ago I would have been like, I can't do that, I'm too distracted. But it's this acknowledgement of, no, I actually do better with more input. I do better. So you start to kind of, what's happened for me is I have an understanding in a really different way of how I function, that it just with things that I probably never would have chosen before, because I thought they were wrong, or I just thought, well, no, I can't be distracted when I'm reading, or I can't but now it's no, there's all these ways that we take in information and awareness from the world that is not linear, it's not understandable, and it's highly energetic. And when we can function from what I would call the speed of space that we be, this energetic reality, and the awareness of what's going on energetically that is totally beneath the surface and non-visible, non-tangible, non-definable, then we get to actually have ourselves and be ourselves. We get to create a fuck ton more than we've ever created before, and we get to invite other people to do the same. And that's one of the things, this is actually a conversation that's dynamically changed my business and allowed me to create what I've created, because I don't hold myself back. I don't censor myself. I don't judge. I go, game on, 8 million things, here we go. And that's kind of how I create every day. I'm like, all kinds of little things pinging me, and I'm typing, and then I'm talking on the phone, I'm doing this, and I'm popping around, and I'm and it's phenomenal. But if you think there's something wrong with that, you'll stop it, you'll slow it down, and you cut off your capacities, you cut off your superpowers, you cut off your being and the things that you have available to you to create something really different in the world and in your life. X-Men judge themselves dynamically until and unless you realize that you're already super fried. Anna, I love it. Yeah. Until they realize that that they actually have capacities and superpowers underneath all of that judgment. And that is one of the things that will set you free. It will set you free. So I just wanted to share that with you. This whole thing about, I had no idea. I really had no idea. And when I was invited to this conversation, when I was invited to look at it, truly everything changed. Truly everything changed. It was like I thought I was a cow. Turns out I was a horse, thinking I was a cow. Because we're geniuses. Exactly, we are geniuses. Yeah, you are brilliant. So I'm doing this X-Men introductory class. It's a 2-hour class. It's on September 11th. It's going to be at my home in Boulder, Colorado in the evening at 7 o'clock Colorado time, 6 o'clock Pacific time. And it's also going to be live streamed on Zoom. So you can come on Zoom, you can ask questions, you can kind of be in the room. The only thing I can't do is give you cocktails if you're online. If you're live, I will give you cocktails. I'll give you yummy cocktails, because that's what I do when people come to my house. Is I make them drinks. It's going to be delicious and yummy, and I'm really, really excited for it. And it's $70. It's really cheap and really easy to access. And it's going to be super dynamic, fun conversation. So you are all invited to come and play. You European friends that I love so much, it's going to be the middle of the night for you. But you know what I know about X-Men is they don't really need a whole lot of sleep, and they have very erratic sleep schedules sometimes. And so, hey, you could get up at, I guess what would that be in Europe? It would be like 3 a.m. Is that right? Yeah, like 3 a.m. Central European time. Oh, yeah, in the Zoom crowd. Hey, I'm happy to share some recipes in advance. If you'd like, you could buy the ingredients and whip yourself up some cocktails to join us. If you live in Europe, that might be a really fun reason to get up at 3 a.m. Make them ahead of time. Wake up. I could give you some cocktail recipes. And you can come on Zoom, or you can get the recording too. Anyway, I would love for as many people as possible to be there. I just really would like to see this conversation be in the hands of everybody, because it fucking changes everything. And so you're invited to come and play. You can go to the Access Consciousness website, and under my profile, it's there. You can sign up there and just put your name on the list. You don't have to pay. And if you want to do the deal, get the Zoom info and all that stuff right now, you can go to my website and just pay, and you're taken care of. It is, the link is heathernichols.com/X-Men intro. There's no dash, there's no hyphen, it's just XMEN intro. September 11th in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado, and online. Yes, especially if you're at work. Because Aussies, you guys will be, I think you're in Australia. Aussies, it'll be in the daytime for you. So I don't know how it works to get you the recording after the fact. So if you want the recording, sign up before, because I'm not sure. It's a specialty class, so I don't know how that works. With my own stuff, I can do that. But with a Access Consciousness specialty class, I don't even know what the deal is with that. So I probably can, but I don't know. Anyway, there you have it. Thanks everybody for being here. And really a great question just to be playing with, that I will leave you with is, have you acknowledged the difference that you be? The difference that you be. Have you acknowledged it? And if you haven't, would you begin to acknowledge it? Would you begin to be curious about how you function in the world that is so fucking different than everybody else? And what if that was your greatest gift and your greatest brilliance? What if your disparity from the rest of the world was actually your greatest capacity? What if? Thank you for you. I mean, we need people. We need people looking at that and playing with that and bringing it to the fore, because, again, this is the evolution of the species. You want to create something different on the planet, you got to step up as you. You can't be anybody else but you. So you may as well have way too much fun and be way too rich and have way too much success and way too much ease in every area of your life doing it. And you claim, own, and acknowledge your X-Men capacities, and that's what starts to become available to you. So bring it on. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.